Cadia Stands. 3 words, just 3. But in the long, brutal history of the 41st millennium, 3 words have never carried more weight. It was a promise. It was a military doctrine. It was a statement of fact, a threat to the archenemy, a prayer to the god emperor. For 10,000 years, the planet Cadia was the shield of humanity, the fortress world, the bulwark. The Cadian soldier was its living embodiment, the gold standard, the wall against the darkness. When a Cadian said, "Cadia stands," they meant it, literally. The planet stood, therefore they stood, and then it didn't. In the 999th year of the 41st millennium, Abaddon the Despoiler did the impossible. He broke the shield. He tore down the fortress. He smashed the wall. Cadia fell. The planet, the rock, the soil, shattered into a billion pieces. This is where our analysis begins. Because the story of Cadia did not end when the planet died. In many ways, it had just begun. This is not a lore video about what happened. This is a psychological autopsy of what was left behind. Welcome. Today we are deconstructing the most tragic and powerful psychological force in the Imperium. We are here to analyze the Cadia Stands paradox. My thesis is this: the destruction of Cadia did not break the Cadian soldier. It calcified them. It transformed them from soldiers into an idea, a self-sustaining, self-perpetuating engine of pure, weaponized trauma. Cadia Stands is no longer a statement of fact. It is a psychological defense mechanism. It is a battle cry of collective cognitive dissonance. It is a testament, and it is a curse. To understand the survivor, we must first understand what was lost. And to understand what was lost, we must deconstruct the machine that built them. Part 1. The machine that builds the wall. A soldier from the Death Korps of Krieg is a product, cloned, manufactured, and programmed for death. A soldier from Cadia is a survivor, a feral human born from a world that tries to kill them. A Cadian was different. The Cadian psychology was not just manufactured, it was total. It was a complete and utter fusion of culture, biology, and environment. To understand the Cadian mind, you must see it as a 3-legged stool. One leg is environment, one leg is culture, the third leg is theology. All 3 were designed for one purpose: to create the perfect, unbreakable soldier. First, the environmental imperative. You must understand where Cadia was. It sat on the doorstep of hell. Its citizens lived their entire lives breathing the psychic fallout of the Eye of Terror. Their children were born with a higher than average chance of latent psyker abilities, a trait that, on Cadia, was often a death sentence. What does this do to a collective mind? It creates a society with zero tolerance, zero ambiguity. There is no gray area when your next-door neighbor could literally see the warp and have their head explode into a demon. This was not an abstract war, it was a personal war. The enemy was not a distant political foe. The enemy was the screaming nightmare in the sky that was actively trying to possess your children. This breeds a very specific, very rigid mindset. Order, discipline, control, at all costs. Life on Cadia was a life lived in a boiling pot. The pressure was always on. The 12 Black Crusades that failed were not failures, they were tests. And every test made the Cadian mind harder, more rigid, more prepared. Second, the cultural indoctrination. Because of this environment, Cadian culture ceased to be civilian. There was no civilian life on Cadia. There was only the Astra Militarum. A Cadian did not join the Guard. A Cadian was born into it. The White Shields were their youth. Their schools were firing ranges. Their history lessons were tactical briefings on the failures of the 12 Black Crusades before. This is not an exaggeration. This is lore. They were taught to disassemble a lasgun, blindfolded, before they were taught to read. Think of ancient Sparta. But even Sparta had a civilian class, the Helots. Cadia had no one but Cadians. The entire culture was a funnel, and at the end of that funnel was a shock trooper, a perfect soldier. Third, the theological mandate. This is the leg of the stool that is often forgotten. Cadians were not just soldiers, they were pious soldiers. They lived next to the physical manifestation of their religion's great evil. This made their faith literal. They did not believe in chaos, they saw it. Therefore, they knew the emperor was their only salvation. Their faith was not a comfort, it was a weapon. It was the psychological armor they wore over their flak armor. The Imperial Creed for a Cadian was a system of control. It explained their suffering. It gave meaning to their sacrifice. You are the wall. You are the chosen. Your sacrifice matters to the God Emperor. The result, the perfect soldier. So what happens when you forge a mind in this three-part machine? Environment, culture, theology. You get the Cadian pride. Cadians were arrogant. They looked down on other regiments. The Catachans were undisciplined brutes. The Kriegers were morbid, soulless drones. The Vostroyans were fancy-dressed aristocrats. They, the Cadians, were the model, the codex example of what an Imperial Guardsman should be. Their pride was their greatest strength, and it was, ultimately, their greatest psychological vulnerability. Why? Because the entire system, the entire identity, was built on one single physical premise, one assumption, one fact, that Cadia stands. The indoctrination machine made a terrible, fatal error. It taught them, I am Cadian. My purpose is to defend Cadia. It never taught them what to be after. Part 2. The trauma of the fall. There is a concept in psychology called cognitive dissonance. It is the profound mental discomfort experienced when a person holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, or when a person is confronted with new information that contradicts their existing beliefs. The Fall of Cadia was the single greatest moment of collective cognitive dissonance in Imperial history. Belief: Cadia Stands. New information: a planet-sized fortress is ramming our planet. Belief: we are the unbreakable wall. New information: the sky is splitting open, the pylons are failing, the ground beneath our feet is gone. We cannot overstate the horror of this moment. This is not just a military defeat, this is a theological and existential collapse. It is the equivalent of a priest watching their God die. To make this transformative, we must do more than just say it was traumatic. We must analyze the trauma. The best model we have for this is the Kubler-Ross model, the 5 stages of grief. The entire Cadian race went through these 5 stages, not in years, but in hours. Stage 1, denial. The 13th Black Crusade begins. For the Cadian soldier, this is Tuesday. This has happened 12 times before, and 12 times they held. The initial shock is met with denial. The reports are exaggerated. The outer defenses will hold. Lord Castellan Creed has a plan. The pylons will activate. Cadia stands. This denial is a function of their indoctrination, their pride. The Cadian mind could not, would not, process the idea of failure. Failure was not in the tactical manual, so they fought. They held the line. They did their duty. They denied the reality of the situation, until reality kicked down the door. Stage 2, anger. The Blackstone fortress appears. It ignores their guns. It moves towards the planet, and the denial shatters. It is replaced by rage. A white-hot, pure, acidic rage. Rage at Abaddon for his arrogance. Rage at the Black Legion for their blasphemy. Rage at their own defenses for failing. Rage at the Imperium for not sending more. Where were the Space Wolves? Where were the Dark Angels? And maybe in the deepest, most heretical part of their mind, a flicker of rage at the Emperor for abandoning them. This rage is what we see in the final, brutal hours. Cadians fixing bayonets to charge Chaos Space Marines. Cadians firing las guns at a descending fortress. It is not brave. It is furious. It is the suicidal rage of a cornered animal. Stage 3, bargaining rage, burns out. It is replaced by a desperate, animal need to survive. To fix this. This is the bargaining stage. Emperor, just let me live, and I will kill them all. If we can just save one citadel, if we can just get the civilians to the ships, if I can just hold this trench for 5 more minutes, maybe the orbital grid will come back online. This is the mind, frantically trying to regain control, trying to make a deal with a universe that does not care. This is Lord Castellan Creed, giving his last impossible orders. This is the Pylon Network, activating a desperate last-ditch bargain to push the warp back. And for a moment, it works. And then, it fails. Stage 4, depression. This is the flight, the retreat, the shame. The Cadian indoctrination has no protocol for this. There is no honorable retreat from your home. There is only failure. This is the stage of survivor's guilt. This is the Great Depression of an entire people. The silence on the refugee ships, the 1,000-yard stare of the survivors, the hollowness. This is Minka Lesk from Justin D. Hill's novel Cadian Honor, a survivor who has lost her entire regiment, her entire world. She is hollowed out. She is adrift. She is defined not by pride, but by loss. The Cadian machine is broken. The mind is shattered. Stage 5, acceptance. The Cadian twist. This is where the Cadian psyche diverges. A normal human, in grief, eventually reaches acceptance. My home is gone. I must move on. I must rebuild. The Cadian cannot. Their indoctrination, their entire psychology, forbids it. Only in death does duty end. Their duty was to defend Cadia, and they failed. But they are not dead. They cannot accept the loss. To accept it would be to admit they failed. To admit they failed would be to break their indoctrination. And if the indoctrination breaks, what is left? Nothing. So, the Cadian mind, in its moment of ultimate trauma, rejects acceptance. It rejects the final stage of grief, and it invents a new one, a new, terrifying stage. It reforges the trauma into a weapon. It reboots the indoctrination with a new premise. The mind performs a terrible, brilliant, insane piece of logic. Cadia is gone. My duty is not over. Therefore, my duty is no longer defense. My duty is vengeance. And the phrase, Cadia Stands, is reborn. Part 3, the paradox made flesh. This is the Cadia Stands paradox. It is a statement that is objectively false. The planet is gone. But it is psychologically true. The idea of Cadia has become immortal. It is the single most successful psychological defense mechanism in the history of the Imperium. It is a scar, and the Cadians have weaponized it. Let us analyze the components of this new post-traumatic Cadian mind. A. The new meaning, the vow. Cadia Stands is no longer a statement of geography. It is an oath. It is a vow of vengeance. When a Cadian says it now, they are not talking about a planet. They are talking about themselves. I stand. We stand. We are Cadia. The planet was just a place. We are the people. This is the ultimate act of psychological defiance. It is telling the archenemy, you took our home, you killed our families, you broke our world, and it didn't matter. You failed because you thought you were fighting a planet. You were wrong. You were fighting an idea, and an idea cannot be killed. This is the new indoctrination. Cadian regiments now recruit from any world they liberate. They take the orphans, the refugees, the survivors, and they teach them the Cadian way. They teach them the paradox. To be Cadian is to have lost everything, and to have weaponized that loss. B. The fuel, weaponized survivor's guilt. The Cadian soldier of the Era Indomitus is defined by survivor's guilt. They believe on a fundamental level that they do not deserve to be alive. Their ancestors, their families, died defending the rock. They are the survivors. They are the ones who failed to die with their home. They are the shameful ones. What does this do to a soldier? It makes them fearless, but not in the brave way. Not like a space marine who has been engineered to feel no fear. No, the Cadian feels plenty of fear, but their guilt is stronger. Their lives are already forfeit. They are a debt that must be paid, and they will pay it in the blood of the archenemy. They are chasing a good death, a death that will finally make them worthy of the name Cadian, a death that will finally allow them to join their ancestors. This is why they fight so hard. This is why they are the first into the breach. They are not fighting for victory. They are fighting for atonement. C. A comparative analysis, Cadian versus Krieg. This is a critical distinction, a highly transformative piece of our analysis. People often confuse the Cadian and the Krieger. Both are suicidally brave, but their psychology is the opposite. The Krieger, the Death Korps of Krieg, is defined by collective sin. Their ancestors betrayed the Emperor. Their entire culture is an act of atonement. They are nihilists. They want to die. Their purpose is to die for the Emperor, to pay back their planet's debt. A Krieger's life has no value to them. They are a blank check of manpower. The Cadian, post-fall. The Cadian is defined by personal loss. Their enemy betrayed them. Their culture is an act of vengeance. They are zealots. They do not want to die. They want to kill. Their purpose is to make the arch-enemy pay for what they lost. A Cadian's life has one value: to be spent in exchange for the maximum number of enemy lives. They are a sharpened spear of pure trauma. The Krieger is a depressive. The Cadian is a berserker. One fights for absolution, the other fights for revenge. It is a critical and terrifying difference. D. The ghost generation. And what of the new generation? The children born after the fall, born on refugee fleets, born on newly gifted worlds that are not their home. They wear the name, they drill the tactics, they shout the words. Cadia Stands! But they have never seen Cadia. They are inheriting a ghost. Their psychology is perhaps the most tragic of all. They are born into a legacy of a failure they did not commit. They are born to avenge a home they never knew. They have second-hand trauma. It's a trauma passed down, not through memory, but through culture, through the grim, icy-eyed veterans who are now their teachers. They are fighting for a myth of a perfect world that they will never see. This makes them, perhaps, the most zealous of all. They have nothing but the paradox. Part 4. The Paradox in the New Imperium. So, this is the new Cadian, a homeless, guilt-ridden, vengeance-fueled zealot, born from the ashes of the greatest failure in Imperial history. What is their role in the Era Indomitus? What does Robute Guilliman, the avenging son, think of these avenging survivors. The Cadian diaspora, the infection of defiance. The Cadians are everywhere. They have been shattered, and like shrapnel, they have embedded themselves in every war zone, on every crusade. They are no longer a garrison, they are a diaspora, and they are spreading their paradox. They are the new standard, the new gold standard, not of defense, but of counterattack. They are the teachers. They arrive on a shattered imperial world, and they look at the survivors, and they say, "You lost your home? Good. So did we. Now pick up your las gun, and let's get revenge." They are an infection of pure defiance. They are teaching the Imperium how to lose and keep fighting. Guilliman's perfect tool. Think from the perspective of a Primarch, a being who sees strategy on a galactic scale. What does Guilliman see? He sees a perfect weapon, a self-motivating, self-replicating army. He does not need to give them a reason to fight. He does not need to give them speeches about hope. Their trauma is their motivation. Their rage is their fuel. He just has to aim them. The Cadians are the ultimate shock troops for his new crusades. They are the living embodiment of his new, angry Imperium. An Imperium that is done with defending. An Imperium that is, finally, attacking. The propaganda of the scar. Finally, we must see the paradox for its symbolic value. The Imperium is a propaganda state, and the Cadian survivor is the greatest propaganda poster it has ever created. The message is simple, and it is powerful. We, the Imperium, we lost our greatest fortress. We lost our shield. The archenemy threw everything he had at our strongest point. And we are still here. We are stronger. The Cadian is the proof, the living proof that the Imperium can survive the Great Rift, that it can survive the loss of its mind. The Cadian is the new hope, not a bright hope, a dark hope, a scarred hope, a hope born of spite. Conclusion. The final analysis. So, we return to our question, the paradox. How can you stand when your home has fallen? Here is the answer. The final, terrible, beautiful analysis. Abaddon the Despoiler won the battle for Cadia. But in doing so, he lost the war against Cadia. He thought that by destroying the planet, he would break their spirit. He was wrong. He unleashed it. He took a stationary fortress and turned it into a crusade. He took a finite population of soldiers and turned them into an immortal idea, a virus of pure distilled defiance. The Cadian psychology is no longer about defense, it is about offense. It is no longer about pride, it is about vengeance. It is no longer about a place, it is about a people. Cadia Stands. It is a paradox. It is a lie. The planet is gone. It is the truth. The idea is stronger than ever. It is a curse. They can never heal. They can never stop fighting. They are trapped in their own trauma forever. And it is a blessing. It is the fuel that keeps humanity in the fight. In the end, Abaddon did not break the Cadian soldier. He made them. He perfected them. He created his own worst enemy, the living, breathing, screaming embodiment of his greatest failure. This is the psychological framework as I see it. The transition from a prideful, static defense to a shattered, mobile, vengeance-fueled crusade. This analysis, this argument, is what constitutes transformative content. We took the lore and we built a thesis on the psychology. What is your analysis? Where do you see the Cadian psychology going now that the ghost generation is coming of age? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching.